Hi guys, welcome to today's video. So it is nearing the end of 2024 and I have had a little look at my shelves, at my TBR, at my digital TBR like my Goodreads TBR, and just books I have on my mind, and I've accumulated a list of series I'd like to continue / finish and also start in 2025. I thought it'd be nice to just come up with a list. I always find it helps when I have a list of books I want to read and books that are on my radar, so I can remember, and books I want to get to. I don't really have another system of tracking what series I'm currently reading, so I thought it'd be fun to make a little list. We can talk about all the series I'm planning to continue and start next year. All of the series on this list I really do want to read. Like, obviously the ones I want to continue because I like them, and then the ones I want to start, I've really wanted to start for a while. We also have quite a lot of series to talk about. So for series I want to start, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then series I want to continue, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have quite a lot to get to. I won't talk about each series too much because then we'll be here all day, but I will tell you a little here and there. All of the series are either fantasy, romance, or romance, my two favorite genres. But before we get into it, I will say today's Christmas, so Merry Christmas. I hope you guys have a really good day. If you don't celebrate, happy holidays. I hope you all had an amazing Christmas and holidays. I hope you all got spoiled with books. I've had a really good Christmas so far, but let's just get into the books. I think we will start with the series I want to start. So firstly, we have the Twisted series by Anna Wong. This is a romance series that has been on my TBR for a really long time. I've talked about it here and there on my channel about how I really need to get to it. I have all 4 books in the series. It is a very popular romance series. It's one of those booktok romances you probably would have heard of when you started getting into reading, if you were in that like romance side of the book community. The reason I haven't gone to it yet is because firstly, this book I've heard not the greatest things about. The second book I've heard amazing things, so I'm really excited for that book. But I say this sentiment all the time, but I need to stop letting other people's opinions deter me from reading a book. Even if I don't love this book, I'll probably have a good time. And I've read the Kings of Sin series by Anna Wong, and I've really enjoyed the book so far, and I've had a good time. I haven't had any favorites, but I've enjoyed them, and so I don't doubt that I'll have a good time reading this book. Even if I don't, who cares, and I still want to continue the series even if I don't like the first book. So we'll definitely get into this series next year finally, because it's been sitting on my TBR for such a long time. We then have Shatter Me, which this is very similar to the Twisted series, as in why I haven't picked it up and how long it's been on my TBR. This is a very well loved fantasy romance dystopian series. I think it leans more on the dystopian side than fantasy. There's quite a few things that have stopped me from picking up this series. Firstly, I've heard bad things about the first book. I've heard this book isn't written very well, but it gets better as you go on. That always deters me from a series. Like, I still bought it because I want to read it obviously, but it deters me from actually starting it. Another reason is it's extremely long, and thirdly because it's dystopian. I am not that into dystopian. I was kind of into it earlier when like the Hunger Games and everything was popular, but now that I'm a reader again, I don't really gravitate towards dystopian, but I think I should give it a go. But yeah, dystopian isn't really the funnest to read about. It kind of feels repetitive sometimes to me, but I definitely do want to read this series. I feel so much FOMO not having read the series, and I'm going to hopefully buddy read this book with my friend next year. We're planning on doing it. I don't know if we'll actually get to it. Hopefully we do, but I think it would be nice to read it with someone else. I'm definitely getting to this next year. Okay, next we have the Prince of Sin series, or you might also know it as the Throne of the Fallen series. So this series follows the Kingdom of the Wicked series by Kerry Maniscalco. That series, I'm up to the 3rd book, and then I'll be finished with the series, but I've really enjoyed that series so far. And the Prince of Sin series follows this series. We follow the wicked princes of hell you see in the first series, and I've been really excited to read it and really intrigued. I really want to see more from these princes of hell. I think each book also, there's a romance, you get more fantasy. I've really enjoyed the fantasy world so far. The magic is really interesting to me, just the world in general. I'm really intrigued. It also has like witches, devils, all these like little creatures, all that good fun stuff. So I really want to start that series next year, especially since I've really enjoyed the Kingdom of the Wicked series. And then we have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This a series I am extremely scared for. It's a 3-book series, and I've heard devastating things about this series. People express such heartbreak and emotion and devastation reading this series, and that frightens me, but I've also heard such amazing things about it, so I really want to read it. I really want to read from R.F. Kuang as well. She's such a highly loved author, and I'm also like so intrigued, but it does scare me a little, and it does feel like a more intellectual book. Like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of politics, and it might take a lot of brain power, so that also scares me, but I think there's also a romance. I could be wrong. Yeah, I really want to give this series a go, but I'm just terrified, so please push me to read it. We then have The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. Sorry if I said that wrong. This is a 3-book series, I think. It was popular, I think it was popular this year. I honestly don't remember what people said about it, but I know a lot of people liked it, and it really intrigues me. I can't remember what it's about, but I remember being intrigued. And the blurb on the back is very simple. I think there's also a romance. I think it's also a slow burn. So I'm very intrigued. I love giving a new fantasy romance series a go. And I've had this on my TBR for quite a while. So I really want to start this series. This series I'm definitely going to get to next year. I think I'm going to say that for every series, but that's my sentiment, is I want to try to get to all of them, obviously. Okay, we now have a lighter series. We have Throttled. We have the Dirty Air series by Lauren Asher. The first book is Throttled. This is a F1 racing, F1 driver romance series. So I know nothing about F1. I don't watch it. I'm just not an F1 girly for that matter, but I know it's really popular in the book community at the moment. Maybe it's been popular for a long time, I don't know. But a lot of book girlies love F1, and I really want to read a romance series with F1 drivers. I also want to read another series by Lauren Asher. I read her Dreamland Billionaire series, which I really enjoyed. I started another series by her, and I'd like to read this series. I think this is her first series. I've heard very mixed things. I've heard it's not the best series, but I think I'll have a good time. I think the books are also shorter. I've heard Redeemed, which I think is the third book, is like everyone's favorite. So yeah, this is a series I'd really like to get into. I love a good, fun, easy, enjoyable romance series. Even if I don't love the books, that's completely fine. I'll still enjoy them. I like to know what I'm getting out of a series, and I have expectations that I'm not going to love it, but I will enjoy it. And I've also really liked Lauren Asher's writing, so I don't doubt that I'll enjoy this series, at the very least. Okay, next we have the Addicted series by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is a very popular romance series. It's also extremely long. I've been wanting to read it for so long. This series kind of deals with a lot of hard things from what I've heard, especially the first couple. I know in this series, both of the main characters deal with an addiction, which isn't the funnest to read about, but I hear it's a very like heartbreaking but heartwarming as well. A heartbreaking and heartwarming story, emotional. You grow to love these characters through their challenges. I haven't heard the most amazing things about the first book, but I know people share amazing sentiments about the books as they go on. I think there's also multiple books that follow this one couple, and then other books follow different couples, which is interesting. I've never really read multiple romance books for one couple before, unless it's been like a fantasy, so I'm intrigued to see how I like it. And I know everyone also has like their favorite couple from the series, which I want to be a part of. I want to have my favorite couple, and I think it also gives like found family. All amazing things. I really want to start this series next year. We then have the Neon Gods series by Kate Robert. I don't know if that's the name of the series. This series is a accumulation of Greek mythological retellings in a romance. I'm not sure if there's any fantasy in them, but I know it leans more to the like romance side. But I've heard interesting things about the series, and it's really intrigued me. I do love a Greek mythological retelling. I'm honestly not a fan of the original stories, but I love when it's a retelling for some reason. So yeah, I really want to give this series a go. It sounds interesting, maybe like a fun, smutty romance series. I also want to try some books by Kate Robert. I have another book by her, I think that's a fantasy, and so I want to give her writing a go. And then the last series I want to start in 2025 is Belladonna. I've been wanting to read this series for so long. I've heard amazing things. I think it's a 3-book series. We're following this girl that I think she like sees ghosts, or she can communicate with the dead, and she also is always cheating death. And in this series, death is like a physical thing, and I think there's a romance with her and death. So that really intrigues me. I love that kind of premise. And I've also heard just amazing things about the series in general, so I really want to read that series next year. Okay, now moving on to series I want to continue in 2025. Firstly, we have Serpent and Dove. This series has been a big hurdle for me. I've talked about it a bit on my channel, but basically this is a 3-book series. I read Serpent and Dove, absolutely loved it, gave it 5 stars, read it so quickly, ate it up. And then I read Blood and Honey, which is over here, and I didn't finish it. I have about 100 pages left, and I put it down because I really didn't like it. And it kind of broke my heart because I loved this couple so much, and then that book kind of ruined everything. And I was just really annoyed. Really annoyed. And so I was planning to pick that book back up, but I never did. It's been like over a year now. But I do want to pick it back up and then read the last book in the series, which I've heard puts everything back together, like gives everyone closure. I also haven't heard the best things about the last book, but I just want closure. I want to see the characters that I love be happy together and get the closure I want after everything was destroyed for me. Honestly, I don't have the fondest feelings towards this author for what she put me through. But anyways, I've heard very similar sentiments from other people that read this series, so I'm not sure what was going on when this series was written, because this book was so good and then the second one just threw everything in the garbage. And I haven't read another series that's done that. Like, there have been like third act breakups and stuff, but it hasn't done it to that level. So we'll get through it and we'll finish it because I just have to. I know that I have to, for me to feel content and to have closure. This series I've also talked about a lot on my channel. I want to continue the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. So this year I only read the first book, Flawless, and I have all the other books in the series. I really want to continue it and just finally get through it because I've been talking about reading it for so long. The second book, Heartless, I've heard amazing things. It's a single dad nanny trope, one of my favorite tropes, and I think I'll really enjoy it. In other books in the series, I've just heard amazing things and I feel so much FOMO, so I really want to get to it. And Elsie Silver has another series coming out that like follows characters in this series, so I think it does anyways. So I need to finish the series and then get to the next one. I do love the cowboy romance vibes. From what I've gathered, they're not really like fun, easy romance books. They have a lot of emotion and stuff involved, but they are also fun. Like, they're cowboys and it's smutty. And then speaking about cowboy romances, I also want to continue the Rebel Blue Ranch series. So I read the first book, Done and Dusted, this year. It is a, I think, 3-book series at the moment. I know a 4th one is coming out next year. I have the second book. I am honestly not that intrigued about the second book, but I am intrigued for the 3rd book. This first book I didn't love. I kind of had a fun, easy time. I read it super quickly. I think I gave it like a 4 or maybe 3.5 stars. Wasn't my favorite, but I kind of expected that. And I do want to continue the series and see if I like any books more or if I feel the same about them. But the covers are also gorgeous, so I don't mind having them in my collection if I don't love them. And then we have the Kings of Sin series by Anna Wong, another series by her. Like I said, I have been reading this series. I'm up to the 4th book, King of Sloth, which I really want to get to. I think there'll be 7 books in total in this series, so I do want to continue it, get through it. So far, there hasn't been a book that I absolutely loved. The highest rated so far has been King of Greed, which I gave a 4.25. But I'm intrigued to see if I love any books from this series. But so far, they've been fun, easy, quick reads, and I do really want to continue. A lot of these books are really like grumpy sunshine trope with the billionaire male main character, of course, and I eat that up. We then have another series by Lauren Asher, the Lakefront Billionaire series. So I started this series this year. I've read the first book. I really want to read the second book. I'm not sure how many books are going to be in the series, but so far I really want to continue it. Like I said, I just really enjoy Lauren Asher's writing. Honestly, I didn't love this book. It was very up and down for me. It was also extremely long, which, like I've said before, I don't enjoy really long romance books. I feel like they always just drag on. I've had so many romance books that I've loved, but then it goes on for too long and then my rating dwindles, my enjoyment dwindles, and that's just a frustrating feeling. But I do really want to continue her series, and the covers are absolutely gorgeous in this series. Next we have the Bergman Brothers series. So I've read 4 out of 7 books from this series, but I haven't read them in order, so it's a little confusing. But 2 books out of the series are 2 of my absolute favorite books, specifically Always Only You, which I did reread recently. The first time I read it was about a year ago, and then I reread it to get out of my slump. So this series has a very close place in my heart. I've really enjoyed it so far. Chloe Leese has become one of my favorite authors, and I really want to continue it. All of the books have representation for chronic illness and mental health issues, and they all have amazing representation for these things. Obviously, I can't speak for each thing because I don't have each chronic illness and mental health issue shown in these books. But I have seen so many sentiments from people who do struggle with those things express how good representation it is. The author is also neurodivergent, and my favorite book, Always Only You, the film main character has autism, and I've just seen so many people express how great her representation is, and so I really cherish her as an author. She really shows that everyone can be loved, everyone deserves love. You can be loved through your hardships, like people will be there for you, and the people who love you are lucky. So I do love her books. They have a close place in my heart. I will say the past few books I've read from her I've not loved as much as the others, so I'm intrigued to see how I feel about the other books in the series. And then we have the Windy City series by Liz Tomford. So there are 4 books in this series so far. I've actually not read the first one because I didn't think I'd like it, so I've never picked it up and I don't think I'm going to. So I started with The Right Move, the second book, which I really liked, and then I read Caught Up, which I also... So far I've had great experiences with her books, and I really want to read the 4th book, Play Along, so badly, and I've also heard such amazing things. Even before I heard people talk about it, I'm like, I'm gonna love this book. And then everyone expressed amazing things about that book, so I'm really excited to read it. One downside to her books though is they are really long, and I've had the issue where I've really loved a book by her, but then it's gone on for too long and I'm like, I'm not enjoying it as much. But you know, that's okay. These books weren't made for me, you know? Some people obviously love longer romance books, they're just not for me, but I still really enjoy her books and really want to continue her series. She has a 5th book coming out, which might be the last one, which I also really want to read. This series technically won't be completed when I read the 5th book, but I don't really mind. And then the last series I want to continue in 2025, which I forgot to grab, but it's up there, is the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. So I've talked about this series quite a lot on my channel, but it was a really highly anticipated series for me. I started Once Upon a Broken Heart in September, I think, and then I got into a slump while reading it. The slump wasn't caused by the book, but by other things going on, and so I wanted to put the book down and pick it back up when I was ready to pick it up again, since it is such a highly anticipated book for me, and I wanted to actually really enjoy it and to read it properly, because like while reading in a slump you don't really read a lot at once, you know? Like I know I would be reading like 10 pages here and there and there, and I wouldn't really be absorbing it like I would want to and really be invested in it. So I'm going to pick it back up very soon and continue the series. Like I said, it's a really highly anticipated series for me, and I know I'm going to love it, so I'm very excited to continue that series. It is very highly loved by a lot of my friends, so I want to join in and be a part of that group that loves that series. I've also saved so much fan art from the series on my Instagram. Every time I go on my explore page and I see fan art from the series, I save it. I have to. I've been saving fan art for that series for like over a year. The fan art is just adorable. I love it so much. It's so good. And yeah, I really want to read it and continue it. So I'm going to next year. But those are all the series I'm planning to continue, finish and start in 2025. Let me know any series you're planning to read in 2025. Also, if you've read any of these or also want to read them, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have a book Instagram and a book TikTok I post on all the time. I also have a Goodreads link down below. You can add me, I'll add you guys back. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Bye!